Hi, I'm Vlad Sparastoria, and I know things. You definitely recognize this from many video games and movies. This, my friends, is an English Sten Mark II. Let's take a closer look. Before the outbreak of World War II, the English army came to the conclusion that it didn't need any submachine guns. And so the English army went straight into World War II without any light automatic weapons. They soon realized the submachine gun was a great idea, since all other nations had adopted it. And in an emergency, they started buying American Thompsons. Thompsons are excellent weapons. The only problem is they're extremely expensive. Making them was really a very long process. They have some pretty complicated milling operations. And in the end, as with everything, cost is the problem. These weapons were essentially non-existent in England. The only thing that existed was some models of a German Maschinenpistole 28, which was actually copied by the British Navy to create the Lancaster. It was a submachine gun, but it was specifically dedicated only to the British Navy. Very quickly, at the Enfield factory, the local engineers created the model. The Sten Mark I's design was a bit more complex than shown in this picture. For example, it had wooden parts that took a long time to make, even if they weren't complex. The Sten, on the other hand, has an extremely simple construction. Most of its parts, they can essentially be made in small workshops, and then all completed and assembled at the main Enfield factory. The weapon is very rough in its construction. Essentially, it's 3 blocks of iron attached to each other. All these parts have very simple constructions. The metal cuts are quite rough. What mattered at that time for the English was being able to build as many submachine guns as possible, in the shortest time possible at the lowest possible cost. That's why the Sten doesn't have an excellent reputation. Of course, it's not the best weapon. It's definitely not the best submachine gun in the world, but it was the submachine gun that the British and all the Allies needed at that time. Simple, cheap to produce, and reliable enough. More than 4 million were produced in its various versions. You can see how such a simple construction can be made very quickly when there's a great need for it. The Sten has an extremely simple construction. After all, it was designed very quickly. And above all, the production of the various parts, all the operations and constructions must be very simple. After all, when there's a war, you don't want to make things that are expensive and particularly complicated. Essentially, the Sten is made up of 3 main parts. There's a large piece at the front that holds the barrel and the magazine attachment, a central tube that contains the spring and the bolt itself. The blowback locking system means the only thing preventing everything from exploding right back in your face is the weight of the large bolt and the very strong recoil spring inside here. The firing cycle is open bolt. Most of the weapons we know have a closed bolt firing cycle. What does it mean? That the bolt starts from a closed position, and when I pull the trigger, I take the firing pin hits the cartridge, causing an explosion. Open bolt firearms are almost always submachine guns or machine guns. The cycle is a bit different. What do I mean? As you can see, right now the bolt is open. You can look inside. Normally there would be the magazine here, and we could see the rounds inside. The weapon has a fixed firing pin. When we pull the trigger, what actually happens is that I make the bolt go forward. I literally release it from a sear lever. The bolt, moving forward, takes a cartridge from the magazine, chambers it, and by pressing it against the firing chamber, makes it fire. The firing pin strikes the cartridge to start the explosion. The recoil pushes the bolt back, which at this point is ready for another shot. I press the trigger again. Look here, I hold it because otherwise it would move forward. We'll see this better during the live fire test. But by holding it, the bolt closes, fires a cartridge, and the recoil pushes it back, recocking it. If in theory I keep the trigger pressed, this operation continues because there's nothing holding the bolt. Look. That's how the weapon operates in automatic mode. As I mentioned, the construction is very simple. The entire back of the stand is just a tube, and making a tube is easy. We can also remove the stock, and as you can see here, there's a piece that basically prevents the spring from coming out the back. It will be simple. And with a simple twist, we remove the entire recoil spring and set it aside. And the bolt, I'm struggling to get the bolt out because it doesn't want to come out. Because what I should do is pull the trigger and slide it out. But it doesn't want to, and I have no idea why it doesn't want to. This is a small mistake, but to fix it I just need to put the bolt back, which I couldn't remove anyway, so that's good. I'm not sure. The 41 manual I read suggested doing it that way. I hope you'll forgive me for this in the comments, but anyway, you've basically seen how it opens from the back. We can reinsert the recoil spring. And here it is working again. The weapon essentially has two safeties. The first safety is pressing in the charging handle. This way I can't open it. It's a very important thing because weapons that operate with a blowback system and an open bolt potentially have a safety issue. What would happen if this safety wasn't there? The weapon could, for example, fall or hit something. If it hits with enough force or gets caught on something in a way that makes the bolt go back, not enough to catch the release lever, but for example, enough to pick up a round from the magazine, it would fire. It's important then for open bolt firearms to have a safety system to prevent this from happening, simply by pressing inside. Another thing I can do, put the shutter in this safety notch, simply by pulling back and turning slightly. Even here, it can't fire. The trigger does nothing to make it ready to fire again. I have to pull back, rotate, and let it go. Let's proceed to the live fire test. I have to tell you, it's actually very pleasant. Its bad reputation might not be so deserved. It's very pleasant and easy to control, I'll tell you. The sights are really excellent and always stay on target. It's simple, the construction is rough, it's nothing special. But guys, I'm really positively surprised by the stand. It's easy to control and you can always see the target clearly, even with basic sights. The rate of fire is quite slow, so it's easy to fire short bursts of 2 or 3 shots and control it properly.